So my first experience, and I remember this crystal clear, that I had with a dying situation with why I'm sitting here teaching this workshop. I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I had, a dream where somebody came in, and this is how a lucid dream starts for me. I'll just be in a regular dream, and frequently in the dream somebody will walk in the door and say, in through a door, and they'll say to me, "Oh, we need you for something," and I'll go with them, and then it becomes a lucid dream. And in the lucid dream, again, I'm consciously aware of everything that's going on. I can control everything that's going on. I have conversations with people. So in this particular dream, one of my guides came to me and asked me if I'd be willing to help him. And so I, 10 or 11 years old, I said, sure, whatever we're going to do. So he took me to this place in this dream where there was an automobile on the side of the road that was all wrecked. It had been in a really bad accident. And he showed me the car, and then he showed me two little kids. It was a brother and a sister. They were twins, probably my age. They were around 10 years old. And they were sitting on a curb up across the street from where this car accident was. And so he pointed them out to me, and he said, would you be able to help them? I think you could help them. And I said, well, what do I have to do? And he said, well, they can't find their parents, and I can tell you where their parents are, and I just need you to take them there. So I was smart enough at even 10 years old to say to this guide, well, why would I need to do that? I mean, why can't you do that? And he said, because I need you to do that. They won't see me, but they'll see you. So it seemed okay to me. I said, where do I have to take them? And he showed me this playground that was right there. And he said, you just have to cross the playground, and their mother will be waiting for them over there. And I said, well, that'd be fine. So he said, okay. And he was very stern, and he took me by the shoulders, and he said, now there's one thing you need to know. And this playground was like a soccer field, like you would see anywhere. And so there was a chalk line at the beginning of the field. And he said, you're going to go across there and take those kids, walk them across the playground or across the field. And when you get to the chalk line on the other side, he said, when you cross over there, there'll be somebody there that's going to tell you when to come back. And when that person tells you you have to come back, you have to come right back to me, and you can't hesitate. You need to get back to me right away. And I said, okay. And he said, no, I need to make sure you understand this. When you get to the second chalk line, and he repeated the whole thing again. And I said, yep, I get it. That's fine. So I go over to the two kids, and I used to remember their names. I don't anymore. The little boy was kind of just staring at the ground. The little girl was kind of looking around, and I talked to her first, and I said, what's going on? And she said, I can't find my parents. And I said, well, I think I can take you to them. I know where they are. And she said, well, how would you know where they are? And I said, well, they're right across the street at that playground on the other side. And the little boy, without looking up, said, there's no playground over there. And I said, yes, there is. And the little girl looked up, and she could see the playground. And she said, well, wait a minute, that wasn't there before. And she looked all surprised, and she had her brother get up, and he looked, and they agreed to go with me. So I walked them across, and we crossed the first chalk line. And as I'm telling the story, I can still see it as vividly as I experienced it back then when I was 10. So we crossed the first chalk line, and we're walking about halfway across the playground, and they took my hands. I remember I was holding their hands, and we were walking across. And this little girl, there was like an area where there were swing sets and teeter-totters and whatever, and there was a little girl playing over there. There were a bunch of kids playing. And this little girl came over and started talking to the little girl that was with me, and said, hey, do you want to come play with us? And she said, well, I need to go find my mom. And she said, well, that's okay, you go find her, but you can always come back and play with us later. And so off we continued walking. And as we started getting to the far end of the playground, I started seeing, like, what was kind of in a movie, it was kind of like a little mist or a fog that was there. And I could see some figures in the fog, but couldn't really make out who they were. And the kids that were with me obviously couldn't see this. I mean, it was pretty obvious that they didn't see it. So as I kept walking closer, I suddenly see the second chalk line is coming into view. And this fog and stuff is on the other side of that. So the little girl said, how much further do we have to walk? And I said, not much further, I don't think. And as we got to the second chalk line, I looked ahead, and in there the figures became clear. There were 3 adults standing there. There was a man and a woman standing together, and then off to the side there was another man, a shorter man, that was standing there. And they suddenly saw us, and the mother dropped to her knees, and I walked across the chalk line, and as soon as I got in there, the kids could see them, and the kids ran to the mother, and the father also. They were all hugging each other and crying, and they were reunited. And I was standing now in this area, and the feeling in this area was so incredibly good that I didn't want to go. And I was like, I'll just stay here. This is like really wonderful here. I can't even describe it. It was warm, it was secure, I trusted it. It was, in a nutshell, it was unconditional love. So I'm standing in here thinking, wow, I could just stay here for a little while, when the shorter man came over to me and said, you need to go now. And I said, no, it's okay, I'm all right. And he was like, no, you need to go now. And then I remembered what my friend had said on the other side, and I suddenly got scared. So I ran back across the chalk line and ran all the way through the playground, back to the first chalk line. And when I got to the other side, my guide was standing there, and he again put his hand on my shoulder. He said, you did a really good job. Would you be willing to do this again for me sometime? And so I said, sure. And just like bam, I suddenly woke up in my bed. And it was almost like a jolting feeling, like being slammed back down into my body. It was a very uncomfortable feeling. And even at 10 years old, when I woke up, I knew exactly what had just happened. I knew it, but I couldn't understand it. But I knew that I had just helped 2 children die, and that I had helped guide them into spirit, and that I had just walked across into spirit and come back again. And I knew that.